Hello, my name is Michelle Swatala, and I am the advisor for the Pine Richland chapter of the National Honor Society. This short video will help you learn how to successfully fill out your application for NHS and be most successful. Congratulations on meeting the standard for the first pillar, scholarship. This application will help you provide evidence that you have met the standards for character, service, and leadership. If you are watching, then you have already read some of the materials in your application packet. Good job. As you know, the minimum GPA that you must maintain is a 3.75 or better. That's cumulative and it's also weighted. The candidacy packet has two parts. There is an online part that includes the application that you download and type into, which shows evidence of your service and also gives you a chance to provide an essay on your thoughts on the four pillars. And then there's also a paper part with 4 different colored forms. There is a green form that's the acknowledgement form, and it basically says that you and your parents have read the requirements of National Honor Society, that you have the time to meet those requirements, and there's no shame if you don't. This isn't necessarily an organization for everyone. And there are 3 other colored forms that are letters of recommendation. There is a purple community form, there are 2 blue teacher forms, and there is a yellow leadership form. The first thing you should do is confirm that you have all the documents. There's a checklist on white paper at the beginning of your application packet. If you are missing something, please let me know. Carefully read through the checklist, follow directions, and note the due date. So as far as following the directions, make sure that you're using blue or black ink because I scan these applications and sometimes pencil gets a glare to it and it makes it hard to read when you're scanning. As far as the due dates go, you'll notice there are 2 separate due dates. There is one deadline, which is a week before the other one. The first deadline is for all of your recommendation forms to come in. The second deadline, which is September 12th, is when your application has to be complete. The reason we have 2 different deadlines is that sometimes adults drop the ball or get busy or lose things, and then it makes your application incomplete if they don't send in the forms. This way, you can pivot and adjust and give a form to somebody else if you need to make sure that your application is complete by September 12th. The green form is the only form that will have your name on it. And as I said, that's the form that you and your parents sign saying you acknowledge all of the requirements and that you agree to continue working on them. The applications are read by the faculty council. This is a team of 10 teachers. We try to have a representation from each of the departments in the building. There are some teachers within a few years of teaching, there are some middle level teachers, and there are some seasoned teachers. They are the ones that read the applications and make a decision, they vote. Everybody reads any application for a member that they are considering not accepting or that are maybe on the fence. I, as Dr. Swatala, organize the process, manage, and then share all the communication with you. Because your name is not anywhere on the application, you need to be careful to represent yourself well in every single section. One section is not more important than the other sections. When reporting your service, there's a place to type right into the online form, and then you can print out that form and have it signed by people that witnessed your service. This is not the only way to attest to your service, however. You could ask people with whom's organizations you've served to write a letter for you and sign it and give some contact information. Make sure though that your student number is the only thing that appears there, not your name. You do not have to use NHS service slips. I basically just need a way of being able to contact the person who signed off on your service in case there are any questions about it. As for your essay, make sure that you write about all 4 pillars and that you also proofread. There have been times when an application hasn't been accepted because there are too many spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes, and it just basically does not represent you well. It doesn't show the mark of a good leader that you were willing to put something like that on paper. Let's now talk about the recommendation forms. As I said, these forms are due a week before your application, so they need to come to me by September 5th. For anyone who doesn't work for Pine Richland School District, we want you to give them an envelope with my name and address on it at the school, and also make sure that it's stamped. That way, when they finish your letter, they can just drop it right in the mail to me. People who work for the school district can send me their letters through interoffice mail or put them directly in my mailbox. At no time should a recommendation form come back to you, though, as a student, because you're waived your right to read it. There will be a Google Classroom provided that you should join. And there's one document in that, and that is the Google Sheet that lists the recommendation forms as they've come in. So what will happen is once school starts, I'll go to my mailbox once a day. I'll gather all the letters that are inside. When I have a spare moment, I will go to your student number, and then I will type in who has submitted various recommendation letters for you. I would start checking that every couple of days once you give your recommendation letters out, and you can see when things have come in. If a form is missing before September 5th, when you get close to that deadline, you should probably remind those people that that's the deadline. If something doesn't come in by September 5th, this still gives you a couple of days to come and see me, get another form, and give it to somebody else to fill out. That way, we're sure that your application is complete by September 12th. Here's a little summary of the things that we just talked about. The first form we're going to talk about is the teacher evaluation forms. You need to do 2 of these, and one should be from a core subject teacher. That's math, science, English, and social studies. These need to be teachers you've had 9th, 10th, or 11th grade. And the teacher forms basically attest to your good character. The community member form also attests to your good character. This can be for anyone in the community that knows you well. This could be a boss, a neighbor. It could be a minister, a priest, somebody who knows you, a parent of somebody you babysit for, somebody that can talk about your good character. And last, the leadership evaluation form. Most of the time, if a student isn't accepted in National Honor Society, it's because their leadership was insufficient. You know, the Faculty Council is looking for members to show evidence of all 4 pillars. Scholarship is easy. You've already met that. Then there's service, leadership, and character. So they have to distinguish between service and leadership. And I know a lot of activities we could call people service leaders, but we need to parse this for NHS. Here's an example. Somebody will report that they were voted captain of their sports team. Well, that could mean a lot of things. It could be a popularity vote. It could mean that you act in true leadership ways. It could mean that you're just a good player. It doesn't mean anything specific, and every sport could be something different. So we need more than that. Coach, not enough. Lifeguard, not enough. I understand that you're responsible for the safety of your swimmers, but what are the actual actions you're doing? We're looking for 3 basic things in leadership. We want to see that you're able to plan, that you can collaborate, and that you can manage. I'll give you a minute to read through the slide. I would say think about the activity that you want to use. And if you could not write about each one of these things, you should probably pick a different activity. So let's look at some examples of things that would not qualify as leadership. A lot of these fall under the category of you're not really responsible for implementing your own plan. For instance, if you're a lector at the church, yes, you're leading people in worship, but you didn't choose those readings. If you lead drills as instructed by your coach, you're not involved with the planning. Daily responsibilities of a good student, sibling, or family member, that would fall under good character. If you attend a leadership camp, that itself isn't sufficient. But then if you do something with what you learned with the leadership camp, that could rise to the level of leader. Also, things that we've encountered in the past that have not worked out, anything that's a paid responsibility at work. So let's say you're a lead hostess. You might be leading the other hostesses, but this is just work you're paid to do. This isn't work that you chose to do on your own, for instance. Pet sitter, house sitter. You can do a group project, but make sure that you're very clear about what each person individually has been in charge of. Now let's look at an example of an idea that somebody had, and the left side would be not qualifying for leadership and the right side would. So let's say your friend's mother works at a shelter and mentions one night the shelter is in short supply of some items. You decide to gather items from your neighbors. This is good quality service. You go around door to your neighbors, asking them to donate extra clothing, shampoo, soap, etc. And then as far as management, you deliver it to your friend's mother and she takes it to the shelter. This would be an excellent service activity, but it would not rise to the level of leadership. On the other hand, if you get this idea and you contact and interview the director of the women's shelter, you find out exactly what they need and why, you prepare social media posts for awareness, you create informational flyers about the most needed items, you contact local businesses for their support, you advertise to your neighborhood, and then for collaboration, you recruit and delegate tasks to some peers. It won't be enough for you just to say, I'm leading my neighbors into donating. We want to know, like, how are you managing schedules? How did you delegate tasks? Did you differentiate? That sort of thing. They can help you put flyers in mailbox, expand your social media reach, create and short education videos with statistics on family violence, for example. And then lastly, the management. You collect your items. In other words, you implement your drive. You reflect on what went well and what didn't go well. You check back with the shelter. You see how everything went. This is how you can take an idea collecting for a women's shelter and elevate it to leadership. Plus, it gives you a lot to write about. So on the leadership form, you will fill out your actions on the front, and then whoever is providing your recommendation will say on the back whether they agree or not agree with your description, and then also sign off and verify. If you need more space, which you might because the form doesn't have much space in the front, feel free to type a document with all 3 sections and just attach it. That sometimes is easier, and to be honest, if you type it, it will be legible and easy to read. If you have any questions about whether or not your leadership activity will count, feel free to email me. I read email all summer, and I'll give you my best advice on whether or not I think it would pass muster with this National Honor Society Faculty Council. I could also give you some pointers. If I don't think it's going to go through, I could suggest ways that you could kind of pivot and adjust so that it would go through. All right, lastly, submission. So you're going to turn in 2 separate things to me by September 12th. One is the green form. That's the form where you acknowledge the requirements. It's the only one with your name on it. That comes to me separately. Your application, you and any other documents that you have, like if you have service letters or your essay, if you want to type that on another piece of paper, that all gets put in an envelope. On the outside of the envelope, put your student number. That's what you're going to turn into me, and that's the anonymous part. So I'll keep a crate with files of student numbers as the applications come in, and this is where I'll file all of your recommendation letters that come in, your application. And then once your application is complete, I'll scan everything and put it in a Google file for the faculty council to read. Everything needs to come to me by September 12th. It's easier for me if you drop it off before school or after school, but if I do happen to be teaching when you want to drop it off, just quietly come into my room, put it on my desk, and then, take yourself out. All right, please feel free to contact me with any other questions, and good luck with your application. Have a wonderful summer.